we launched 10 coins on $1 liquidity, and we didn't realize how, like, this is just part of the learning curve, but we didn't realize how gnarly the bots were going to be and come in, and they ran like what, like the coin's value was at like 16,000 or something for a while, right? Like
Wow.
off of like $1 worth of liquidity. But it was just because there was so little of it and like spread so thin.
So welcome, mostly Max, to the P-Sands podcast. If you can, just go ahead and give a quick introduction of yourself and what Polymax is all about.
Hi, I am going by Max, a pseudonym that's sort of part of our farm games name, Polymax, Polymax DeFi on Twitter. So Polymax DeFi currently is a yield farm strategy game, is sort of the way we're going at it, where for the past few weeks, we've been putting out a yield farm every week with a new theme and new tokenomics, and sort of letting, it's kind of like a chess for money, where, you know, we change up a couple of the variables and people can sort of go place down some money and, you know, test out some strategies within this sort of framework. That's what we've been doing for the past 3 weeks. After our cyborg farm this past weekend, we are sort of recalibrating, is maybe a good word for it. We're not sort of seeing the growth we want, so we're trying to take a step back and evaluate, you know, do the postmortem, see what we're doing right, see what we're doing wrong, and figure out our next move. So,
Okay,
sure.
cool. And thanks for that. Yeah, I noticed you, on your website, you say like you can try your DeFi strategies on Polygon Farm. And I have to say, like, I've used it. I was on the Poly Caveman. The Poly Caveman didn't do too well for me, but the Berkshire did fine, and the Cyborg one's doing well. And I think a big part of that is because there's not too many people in it, so I'm actually managing to get a lot of the rewards. And yeah, so uh, it's
That's
it's
maybe a tip, like that's maybe a tip you're sharing with your audience for scouting farms.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I guess there's a conflict of interest because if more people get into it, then it you know, it takes away my position a little bit.
It
So
dilutes the rewards. Yes.
yeah, but you know, I think that's part of the I like to see cryptocurrency as an ecosystem. So the farms are kind of competing with one another in a sense, and they kind like, and so the APYs kind of find their market balance in a way. But all these farms have different tokenomics too, and so it makes it pretty confusing and interesting. And like you say, it's kind of like playing chess with all these different farms and pools and all that stuff. So one of my questions just to get started is, how did you get involved in DeFi?
Um, I'll just give you the DeFi part of it. Um, so I like I had I was a I'm a little bit I think I'm a little bit older than you. I think you're like a couple years out of college. Um,
I'm 30 years old. Just
okay.
yeah,
All
just
right.
yeah.
Well, I still got some years on you.
No worries. Yeah.
So during COVID, my industry prior to this took kind of a hit, and it was gonna, like, we were one of the industries where it was gonna be I'll just say it was commercial real estate, And
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
the subset of it got hit really hard by COVID. And so I started going down like, okay, what does this mean for my industry? Like how does the paradigm shift on this? Um, so I looked for things that could sort of be the like as it comes out of the darkness, like um, what are the new innovations that came into it? And one of the things that I got like that caught my eye was tokenization of real estate assets. So I started going down that rabbit hole, and um, I started going to these conferences. Like I live in California, and like I would see stuff on LinkedIn and stuff about like the LA Blockchain Summit, and there's that Draper Gorham Home like little venture fund. Um,
Okay.
anyway, so like I started going into that, and then like, but there's no traction really there right now.
Ah.
Um, like so that wasn't it, but I got interested, right?
Hmm.
So I had never really been that interested in it before. I had someone gave me some Bitcoin in 2013. I think I either like threw it away or it's it's probably worth like 50 grand now or something. But and then 2018, like when that sort of run, I had played around with some. Like I was interested in other stuff, but like the cryptocurrency stuff sort of played a part in it. Like I had these sort of technology interests that I'll just go toy with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and like this was part of one of them. So I was like, I was trying to figure out how some stuff worked, and I was I was using the Bitcoin ATM and sort of that kind of stuff. But then
Cool.
like over COVID is where I sort of dug in deeper. Um, Fast forward up to like the beginning of the year, I'm on this Asian exchange, through a VPN, and I'm I'm like loaning out Tether to these people that are trading on margin, right? And the APYs are pretty good on that. It's like 30%. And this guy that I had met through some of these conferences is like, yeah, you need to go start playing in the DeFi world a little bit more. Like, go play with that stuff. So, I took some money off the centralized exchanges, and then, I was all over the place. I had done some mining stuff through this weird little geo mining thing. So I'd used like Uniswap before. Um, that was back last year when ETH was probably like 500, 600 around there, before everything really went insane this year. Um, and like so I had sort of like I'd used MetaMask and stuff like that. And then like I spent some time on Terra. I spent some time on Secret. Um, I spent some time on BSC. At this point, like by the time I actually got interested in the DeFi stuff, ETH was too expensive, so I wasn't doing that. And then like I'd heard about the layer twos and the side chains. So once I started seeing stuff on Polygon, I went over there, and when I saw how cheap the transactions were, I just fell in love. Um,
Yeah.
so then so I was just you know yield chasing like crazy for a while on Polygon. And I met like I don't want to trash this farm, but like we were in this farm's Telegram group, and there was a group of us that were just, running our mouths and bitching and all this stuff. And like we all came like someone suggested we all go start a Telegram group, right? So we do, and like it's still together. We got like 14 members, and it's like a little working group where we all sort of share ideas and like support each other's projects and stuff like that. So like we created this little group, and out of that, I met my partner for Polymax. He's based in Asia, and he's a coder by trade. He's newer to blockchain, but like he is sharp as a tack. Like um, he's probably seen, like blockchain code for like 3 months now or something. And like in another 6 months, I'm sure like he'll be controlling half the internet or something. he's a sharp guy. Um,
That's awesome
so
to have that
yeah,
skill on your team.
yeah. So yeah, and then just sort of given my background, like the commercial real estate stuff, and then I have some other sort of like finance stuff on there. So like the concepts are different here and the way it sort of behaves is a little bit different, but there's like, I don't know, like that's kind of like I have this operational and then finance sort of knowledge that like I add on top of his technical expertise. And then like because like just I'm a native English speaker and so much of this stuff gets done in English, like it's a little bit like I can sort of deal with that workflow too for right now. It's not my favorite thing to do, but like team player, do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So how do you make profit from the developing farms? Farming, we're chasing the APYs, but what are the developers? I know they get uh some section of the rewards a lot of the time, and but then there's a problem, like if they start selling those, then people are going to accuse them of dumping, right? So
Yeah.
how do farms make profit for the developers and people like you?
So it's up to each farm individually, right? This is like, you know, you've talked about rug doc on previous um, like episodes of your podcast, but like sort of the argument over like a hard rug is where they take all your money, right? And then there's this sort of argument over what a soft rug is of like, well, like the fees and all the sort of like stuff that's kind of up for grabs and everyone wants a piece of. Um, Sort of the way we've squared it in our head, like what this is just what we've done. We've said, all right, we like there's 10% of the rewards come into the developer's wallet.
Mm-hmm.
For like the last three farms, like we we use those for operations. We're not selling those. We're not like it's just like okay, if we're gonna add liquidity to the pool and we need some, RoboCop token, we'll like take some USDC, combine it with some of the emission and put it in there. But we're not, or like I was running a Twitter promotion to kind of gin up some interest. We'll take some of the RoboCop from that and throw it like at the end of the farms, we have a ton left over. Now that
Right.
being said, we did take a little bit on the original max, just as like sort of um, that's the one that we've tried to sort of promote in like this sort of layered model as like, like here's the thing that we're trying to create value around. So like we have a chunk of that and like that we sort of like that's our sort of piece of this project. Um, okay, so there's that's the emissions.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
the other sort of big sort of fighting piece is the deposit fees, right? Um, what we have said is that, okay, with deposit fees, we're going to take half. That's essentially developer paycheck, and the other half goes to liquidity because we're not taking the emissions, like we're not dumping those on you, like, and we're not, we're nice guys, but we're not doing this for free, right? Like I've put a lot of hours into this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's basically our like that's how we've said we're gonna take a cut. Um,
Through deposit fees.
yeah.
Got it.
Now that's us. And other farms, maybe they take all the deposit fees. Maybe they don't take any. That's all liquidity, but they're dumping on emissions. Like or maybe they figure out some some other way to I don't know. Like some people will do like a direct sale. They won't like put it in the liquidity pool. They'll directly sell farm tokens prior. Maybe they just like sell a bunch and that's their sort of fee on the farm. Like there's a bunch of different ways to sort of do this or
Gotcha. And okay, gotcha. And so your model is to take half the deposit fees and then the rest of the deposit fees go for liquidity. So that
Yeah,
means that when I put BTC into a pool, it'll take
yeah.
4% of that, and so you get.
3.5. We're cheaper.
Oh
That's
yeah, no,
another.
that's right, 3.5, and so you'll take half of that as Bitcoin, or
Yeah.
how is that getting to you?
So it all right. So when you deposit into a farm, it like your deposit splits up into two pieces.
Mhm.
Like the 96.5% goes into the master chef and it sits in there. And you can go on Polyscan and put in the contract address and you can see all the coins in there of people that have deposited. The other, like 3.5%, goes into the dev wallet. So you can go check that and see how, like, especially near the beginning of a farm, you can sort of go check that to see, like, because that's when all the deposits go in. So you can kind of see what the high was for the total value lock. And you can see what's in the dev wallet, right? Um, like ours is maybe a little bit misleading because it's the same dev wallet from farm to farm to farm.
Yeah,
So
I
like
noticed
there's
that.
this, there's well, it's a little bit like there's a transparency element to that, right? Like
Hmm.
we like we're creating contracts on the same accounts so that um like we really do try to pride ourselves on like being transparent and honest and like not schemy, um like just good, bad, or whatever. We try and deliver on what we say we do, right?
Yeah,
um
no, totally. And that's my experience with you guys. Like, as everything I've you guys have said, you guys have done, and everything checks out from my personal experience with you guys. So, um,
well, thank you, appreciate
yeah,
that.
definitely. So what are some things you think is preventing higher TVL on the farm launches?
um So I honestly think that to a certain extent, the fact that we are known hurts us. um, there's not this sort of sexy appeal of the unknown. We're just like, oh, that thing again. Um, and I guess at this point, you kind of know what you're going to get from us or something. Like it's not, um, like there's that aspect of it. There is the sort of a marketing aspect of it. Like so a lot of these farms that get like $2 million, I think, they might get 80 grand in developer fees, but you know, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but like running a banner ad on Rug.doc costs 4 grand. Like
Yeah, Rug Doc's
advertise.
making some money on that for sure.
Well, yeah, but
They're a great
like,
resource, though. I think they
yeah,
really
more
deserve
power
it.
to the guy. Well, yeah, like like they do the community a lot of good, right? So I'm not saying anything against them, but like me and my partner, like we started this thing with basically nothing. Um, our our initial our first max farm, like we stealth launched the coin and like we launched 10 coins on $1 liquidity, and we didn't realize how, like, this is just part of the learning curve, but we didn't realize how gnarly the bots were going to be and come in and they ran like what like the coin's value was at like 16,000 or something for a while, right? Like
Wow.
off of like $1 worth of liquidity. But it was just because there was so little of it and like spread so thin. Um,
So how do the economics of that work? So it's $1 of liquidity, and when a bot buys buys the token, the value shoots up because there's no
There's so
liquidity.
little, yeah, there's so little of it. So
Oh, that's
the
weird.
um, well, I mean,
So it's kind of like a bot pump and dump, I guess.
yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, like they're in there, they try and hijack it and get in there quicker than everyone else, and then sell it off. And but like if you go, you know, we stare at too many transactions these days that are like really, really boring. But there's bots all over the place, all over this network. Um, and like you just see them sitting there like buying, 17 cents of max, selling 17 cents of max, buying 16 cents of max, selling 16 cents of max, like over and over and over again for like fractions of a penny. Um,
And they're making money off that.
yeah.
Wow.
Um, or like, like the arbitrage in between the Matic pool and the USDC pool, or like, I
Yeah,
mean, not all, there's bad coding too. So like, I'm sure some of them are losing money, but like, um, yeah, there's a lot of this out there.
yeah, I'm kind of wanting to make my own arbitrage bot. That sounds really cool to me.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
But
Um,
that, I gotta learn Solidity. I'm
well,
working on that right now. That's my thing right now.
there's, yeah, you and me both. Like something I was playing with, I don't know, 5 months ago or something, is there is this program out there called Hummingbot, just since you're interested in doing it. It's got a lot of the functionality built around it and you can program it. And it does
Mhm.
a lot of arbitrage work and like market making stuff.
Cool.
And um, like last time I checked, I want to say that they were trying to be able to like arbitrage between centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. So you could like, you know, play around with that dynamic, which I thought was pretty slick. Um,
Yeah, that's awesome. I dig arbitrage. It sounds like a bad thing, but I think it's a good thing.
uh, it's in any sort of free market, it's bound to happen. So
Yeah.
it's like it's not necessarily like set aside the like get over the idea of the morality of it and
Mhm.
just it's in a free market, it happens. Um, like people will make money when they can. You just have to assume it. If there's easy money on the table, people will go for it.
Yeah, definitely. And arbitrage is just like saying this is what the price is supposed to be. Why aren't you guys paying this price? Here,
Yep.
let me fix
Like,
that.
yeah, you're just taking advantage of price discrepancies, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, it's $10 cheaper over there than it is over there. Okay, I'm gonna go buy it over here and sell it over there. Like
Yeah,
it's that simple.
very simple. And it makes the market like, more,
Yeah,
it
you
makes
hit an
sense. It makes the market make
equilibrium.
more sense.
Yeah, that's how you get to equilibrium.
Hmm.
That's like economics 101.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, so one thing I wanted to ask was Rug Doc, they had a mention that there's no time lock and they have a scary like exclamation thing by it. And I was wondering what are some issues you've had with the time lock that keeps you from implementing it?
Yeah, we sort of started talking about this, and then I was like, oh, it'll be good for the podcast, so let's talk about it. Okay, so for instance, our caveman farm, our first farm, our max farm, we didn't have a time lock, and we got a low risk. Um, we changed up the code a little bit just to put in our max, no time lock, low risk. Um, caveman, we did we just added a referral thing so that like people could get, like trying to do a marketing thing so people could get paid for, um, spamming our link out there. Um, and we got some risk and we didn't understand. So this like the contract was already deployed. And once that happens, like there's no pulling it. Well, on our first one, we did pull that one back and it was a nightmare. That was like us being the rookies and not knowing what we were doing.
What happened
Um,
there? What happened with the pullback?
mm, um, there was something about the start block. Um,
Hmm.
I'll have to go, it's somewhere in the pinned messages, I think, still.
Okay, no worries.
I'm sorry,
Just
it's been like
curious.
6 weeks. It
Hmm.
was, but basically, we had to go deploy a new smart contract and get people to undeposit and then redeposit, and then we had to go refund everyone's deposit fees, which was just fun. Um, so we learned that lesson. But all right, so then the next one, like we set it up and we think we're good because all we've done is add a little bit of code to have referral fees. Well, we get a rating or a review back from Rugdoc with some risk, and we're like, you know, with the sort of current state of, all the rugs and stuff, like we were trying to grow this thing, not like have people giving us a leery eye and, give us less attention. So so like my partner sort of like he's a bit of a perfectionist, I guess you would say. Just wants nice, clean code, and like um, he, we don't. There's not necessarily a need for a time lock if everything's kind of already automated, right? If you have stuff that like can be switched and moved, that is still sort of like out there, okay. The thing that most people worry about with time locks is changing the deposit fees, right? Like you go from like a 4% to 100%, and then like that's a rug, right? Like, okay, they switched it to 100%. You put the money in, go straight to the dev wallet, and like the dev is off to Hawaii, never to be seen again.
Yeah.
Um, so that's like from my experience, that's the one that sort of gets everyone's attention really quick. Um, like our like for caveman, we didn't have that. Like we didn't have a solution for that, but we didn't change the previous code, so we didn't think that there was going to be it was going to affect our rating. um, so okay, how do we salvage this? Like you, as I'm sure you're aware, we've been doing these like 10-day cycles on farms.
Hmm.
We launch one a week, but we give a couple extra days in case people want to stick in there for a little bit longer, or you know are out of town and can't, whatever, stuff happens, and just give people a couple extra days. So we put a 10-day time lock on it to sort of like, okay, well, here we'll just lock the thing up for 10 days, and then like that that alleviates those risks that like we got dinged with. But we had changed up our tokenomics for the caveman, and we had planned to manually adjust like the emission changes. So because of the time lock for the deposit fees, it interfered with our tokenomics emission schedule for it, right? So we
Because you
had
couldn't
to
change any of the
correct any of
settings.
the parameters. Exactly. So like on Caveman, like the tokenomics were not what we wanted at all, right? Like way too many came out for what we were planning. Um, it just blew it up.
Yeah, that
Um,
one didn't work very well for me. But I mean, it wasn't bad, but it just like wasn't as good as the other ones that I did with you guys.
yeah. So, well, that's we had planned the tokenomics to be more like the last two, more like the Berkshire and Cyborg, like this sort of gradual sort of sloping down, and yeah, so that just it didn't flood so hard. Like on that one, it pumped out like 430,000 tokens, whereas like on these other two, it pumped out like 45,000. Um,
Interesting. So as the farm goes longer and longer, you guys increase emissions over time? Is that kind of
Decrease
like how you guys do it?
emissions, decrease emissions over time.
Decrease emissions over time. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Um, that's yeah, that's what we've seen that done, and we, you know, like like I was saying, like we met as sort of on the other side of the fence, right? Like we met as farmers, sort of chasing these things around and trying to do it. So like now I've sat on like sort of both sides of the fence and sort of see it from both perspectives. Um, but yeah, like decreasing emissions is like it helps the token value though, right? Like if you blast out the emissions and you keep it real high, there's no way, just
Too
there's
inflationary.
yeah, it's way too inflationary. And like these coins, just given what they are, token farms essentially are worthless after the farm is over, unless you have some creative way to do it. I know that's not like a popular, everyone wants to know like what's the point of these things? The point is to try and make money while you're farming them. Like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm holding these cryptocurrencies, and this seems like a fun way to try and grow it as I hold it.
yeah. And but like the Bitcoin is the one you hold. You're not going to hold the RoboCop token and like stick it towards your retirement. Like we we try to steer people away from that, but we still get lots of sort of um, people don't find that answer to be very satisfying. You asked earlier, like what some of the issues we're facing are. Like I think that's um, the fact that we don't maybe spin that into like some rosier BS might hurt us more, but like we'd rather be honest than like sell it, sell people some garbage.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, one
like
one rosy thing that I was thinking, and you're in real estate, or you were so
yeah,
I'd be interested to ask you this. You can, what if you bought an NFT using the coin, and you can use that NFT to like fund it. So basically, when they buy the NFT, it's funding some sort of development. And when they present the NFT, they can use whatever you develop. Like, so if you developed a building, then they can go and stay in the building or something like that.
um, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would need to see more details, but on it, like from my perspective, a lot of just sort of bouncing it back to real estate. The problem's not with the technology with blockchain and real estate. The problem is with sort of the entrenched players that sort of do not have any sort of incentive to like transition to something new. Like their sort of attitude is like, I'm rich. Why do I want to broke something? Like, why do I want to fix something that's not broken? Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Like their little scheme for making money is working. Um, that's going to be one of those things where if they do go into it, like this just kind of goes into my worldview, but like power is never given away, power is taken. So someone's going to have to go find a way to take it from these people.
Yeah, that's what I like about DeFi. It just feels like the
Yeah,
bank, like all the
yeah,
bank stuff that's going on is just going
yeah,
to be DeFi'd, defied.
yeah. Defiance,
Yeah.
not decentralized defiance. Yeah, uh, yeah. We'll see. Like, there's a fight coming, I think. Um,
Hmm.
like, you see the way China went after the miners and like some of the exchanges and stuff, and now they're rolling out their CBDC. Um, like, I mean, essentially, cryptocurrency can be viewed as a challenge to the authority of the state, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because um, so what government like? typically like I have this little quip that I say with people, and I say it's revolution without guns, right? It's revolution through economics because you're like, I'll quote some Wu-Tang here, but cash rules everything around me, right? Like governments don't run without money. So if you starve them out of their tax revenue because everyone's in cryptocurrency, that is a that's an existential crisis for a government. China has begun to aggressively deal with it. The US and some other countries have too. The US is, we'll see where we go. That, like, I think there's a fight coming.
Yeah. From my perspective, I feel like China made a bad decision doing banning the miners and stuff. That was just, I think it's just like you said, they have it good the way it is, so they don't want the change. But I feel like the US is taking cryptocurrency more in stride. Um, it's just based on what I've heard from some of the, I guess, people who are involved in government, and they've spoken at like the Bitcoin conferences. And Gary Gensler, I watched. That's how I kind of started learning about Bitcoin and the blockchain, was through his YouTube videos. And he's the head of the SECs, and he likes crypto, and he likes the idea, and he really values it.
Yeah, but sort of, yes. But his vision of what crypto is going to be, and sort of the vision of sort of like true crypto purists, you think decentralized, permissionless, and uh, decentralized. There's three pillars. Sorry, I'm a little bit loopy right now.
No worries.
But like permissionless is not okay. If you're a regulatory authority, like that means like that's a middle finger to your regulations. Like it's permissionless. You don't get to put permissions on it, right? Like
Sure. Yeah.
KYC stuff, like no, like so like that opens the door for a lot of the boogeymen you see in the crypto sort of debates, the drug dealers, the money launderers, and all that kind of stuff. But if if you allow the sort of regulators to come in and do all this stuff to it, what's the point of having it anyway? Like it's not this like alternative asset that it just becomes money, right? Like it just becomes like US bank money or someone else's. And I don't know, like to me, like that sort of defeats the purpose of what it was built to do in the first place.
I definitely see your point. I do think, like, I mean, some regulation is gonna happen. Like, it's not really a choice, I would say. But one story that I liked was when for Silk Road, the FBI agents who were tracking down the guy who was like running Silk Road.
Ross Ulbricht or whatever his name was.
Man, I don't know the names of any of these people, but
I think that it's something like that. It's like
okay.
Ross or Russ something.
But
Yeah.
he turned out to like kind of go bad. And so they had another
Ordering hits on people and stuff.
well, that was the person who ran Silk Road. Like, I think he ordered a
Yeah.
hit on
Is
the
that not who you're talking about?
no, yeah, but I was talking about the agents, I think,
Oh,
at that
gotcha,
point.
gotcha,
But
gotcha.
yeah, the he ordered a hit on the agent from the FBI agent, so that's how they got him, I guess. So yeah, no, he was getting played the whole time. But the FBI agent who investigated the agents found out that they were doing all this like stealing money basically. And she was able to track it down through the blockchain. So a lot of this centralized power and maybe corruption that goes on from these, big institutions, it's going to be tracked like and it's going to be public information. It's because it's pseudo anonymous, right? So you don't see who's behind the transfers, but you could track where the money's going. And yeah, there's a lot of value there. The FBI agent said she would not have caught these other FBI agents if it wasn't for the blockchain, because these other FBI agents were so high up, they can cover their tracks.
Yeah, I mean, or you go more recently, the gas pipeline hack, the thing like a
Oh,
month ago
no, what happened
where
there?
it was on the East Coast. You didn't hear about that? Where like they think maybe it was Russian hackers, maybe not tied to the state, but had sort of sanctuary in Russia. They took over, the biggest gas pipeline on the East Coast, and like there was, 2-mile lines at gas stations for people filling up, and it went on for like, I don't know, 2 weeks.
Oh,
You missed
wow.
that one? That
Yeah,
was big
I
news.
totally missed that one. Did not hear about that.
Okay. Well, anyway, it was a ransomware group out of somewhere in Russia, but I don't think they've actually tied it to like the Russian government or anything.
Oh,
And they basically hijacked the software that ran their pipeline and were like, send us Bitcoin. And so they like the gas company ended up shelling out. It was only like $5 million, but the amount of economic damage was probably like just, you know, 200 billion or something, because it was devastating to like just the
wow.
East Coast. Go Google that later. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that's
Um,
gnarly. Jeez.
and anyway, the FBI, like, they sent it in Bitcoin, and they got some forensic accounting people on it to go, through. They tried to run it through a million different transactions and stuff to hide it, but they got a big chunk of it back. They found it they somehow tied it to some like server in sort of Silicon uh, up near San Francisco
Mm,
somehow.
wow.
So
Huh.
I don't know. Um,
Some
but
Sherlock
yeah,
Holmes stuff. That's an interesting thing to be one of those like programmers who like tries to track down people through the blockchain.
yeah. Well, so like, okay, yeah, that's the thing. But like now, um, there's stuff like Monero, or there's like
Right.
all the privacy stuff, right? Or if you go on the Atom blockchain, there is actually a DeFi protocol over there that is, it's called the Secret Network. And you buy secret tokens. I think they're about $1 a piece right now, and you can like put them in liquidity pools with like Tether and stuff, and you earn like these Cefi things, which are supposed to be like their governance reward. They're building a bridge to Monero, so like you get just a ton of um, like, I don't know if you've played with Monero, but like
I have not. Not.
it's
Yeah.
so it's got like a mechanism to um, confirm transactions that uses blockchain, but you can't go search the blockchain for transactions. Um, and they obfuscate transactions. They'll like um, as part of their process, like they'll send out a bunch of decoy transactions too, to sort of confuse anyone that's like snooping on them. Um, has to do with their like ring stuff. Anyway, like it's like on the sort of dark web and sort of those markets where you go buy guns and drugs and stuff, that is sort of the cryptocurrency of choice because it's the hardest to track. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And they don't offer it on a lot of exchanges
yeah,
because of that, I think.
yeah, but it's like it's relatively easy to mine, surprisingly.
Oh, okay. Huh.
That's kind of where I learned about it, because when
Huh.
um, like that was a part of the evolution I went through with crypto. Is I like it's like maybe I'll mine these things,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I started off, I was talking about like this GeoMiner thing, which like was basically an app on your phone. I made a little bit of money off of it, but it is more of like a learning experience. But then like I learned how to like mine Monero off of a few different ways. And like it's supposed to be like, you know, think about Bitcoin back in the day, like 2009, you could mine it off your CPU on your laptop, right?
Right. And
Um,
now, yeah.
yeah, now you need like all those expensive ASIC miner things to, you know, do a billion hashes a second to like maybe get a chance at like some fraction of a Bitcoin or whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, well, Monero, they've tried to code it so that it is resistant to like ASIC miners and like so they're trying to decentralize it as much as possible, so that like it is impossible to shut down. Um,
Cool.
but yeah, so like I would, I opened up a terminal window on my laptop and started, playing around with the code in there and figured out how to, it was a joke. I think I made like $8 and probably like, put $300 worth of damage onto my like fancy MacBook, but like I
Oh,
figured
shit.
out how to do it, like
That's
maybe that's
great.
why it
Yeah.
overheats now.
Oh, shit.
but but like, okay. So that was, oh, and then also with Monero, like, I want to say it's like 3 years ago. This was a thing that happened for a while. Hackers were doing this thing where they would send out like because you can run it on sort of crappy CPUs, hackers would go out there and install this mining software on just thousands of computers and like create like these bot farms. So like there'd be all of these crappy computers all over the world, like mining Monero back to this one account, right?
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, hey, that's a good tactic. Dang.
Yeah. Or like another one, like there was they found some sort of browser exploit so that every time you would like go to certain like web pages or something, it would activate this thing on the web page in the background, which would go activate mining code, right? They had a funny term for it. It was oh, what was it? I don't know. It was some play on words of like a something in between like mining and hacking or something. I don't know. I can't remember. But that was a clever one too. Right?
Nice.
Like, um,
Well, so to jump back to the
yeah.
time lock.
Sorry.
No, that
Yeah.
was it was really, yeah, no, it's cool learning about all that stuff.
Gaming
And
stuff. Yeah.
Monero is yeah, it's definitely one of the, like, I just think, yeah, if you want to, launder money or hide where you're getting your money from, like, it's Monero, right? You just use Monero and you're good, right? That's how it works.
Uh, I mean, I have full faith that the NSA is, like they are having no part of that and are finding every way they possibly can to hack us and find out what's going on.
Oh
Um,
man, yeah.
like the idea that we have any sort of privacy, like I'm not buying that one. So like in theory, yes. In reality, yeah, I wouldn't take. Be
For sure.
careful if you try that. You're probably like, yeah, be careful.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. That's why I kind of haven't really messed with it. There's like all that. It's
well,
like I don't want to. I don't have to. I'm poor, man. I'm not trying to hide funds.
yeah.
So anyway, so for the time lock, what change? So there's no time lock. So what changes could be made to so these contracts are on the blockchain, so you cannot change the contract. But what are the parameters that you can change uh with to the contract?
Off the top of my head, like the ones I know just from experience are emissions, deposit fees. I don't know. Like beyond that, I don't have you probably have yeah, go dig through it.
Oh yeah, no, this is just your contract over here. I was just gonna go to the right contract, and over here you have emergency withdrawal. So this is like my go-to when I'm looking at farms. I'm like, okay, is there emergency withdrawal? And
Yeah.
uh
And like on our tokenomics sheet, I also put the PID numbers on it. So like you can, like, because you need a PID to emergency withdrawal. And then on top of that, we always put our stuff on VFAT. So like, let's say we were going to be super scandalous and take down our docs too, when we were gonna, if we were gonna scam everyone. Um, like if our farms are on VFAT, then you can go to VFAT and get the PID numbers.
yes, and I had to use VFAT with I think it was Polygarden. I got they did the switch up on the Web 3.0 interface, I guess. And so you were actually doing it to a different contract. So I lost like $10, which
Yeah.
was, not not too bad. But that's like a day worth of farming, man. But yeah.
um, yeah, like so, especially money going in, like learning how to like deposit and learning how to do it through the smart contract, like through the scanner is good, but like that's a little bit harder. Like a sort of medium road thing is VFATs. So like VFAT's great. Like I encourage everyone to go learn how to sort of do sort of deposit withdrawal, and that way, like unlike the rug doc thing where they'll say like 7 times on their website, you will not get hard rugged if you make sure that you're interacting with this contract. Like the contract's on VFAT, like unless VFAT is in collusion with the farm, if you deposit through VFAT, like they're like to the right contract, like you don't have to worry about that sort of like man in the middle type thing where they switch out the web UI to like a different uh, farm, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And
so
so there is like, so one thing I've heard is that maybe like someone can change the contract so that the emergency withdrawal like is 100% fee or something like that. Is that like possible with, is it not possible to change anything with the emergency withdrawal? Or yeah, is this
I
like secured on
I
the blockchain?
I believe so. I am not gonna, that's a question above my technical expertise, so
Mhm.
don't quote me on that.
Sure.
And if like I'm actually kind of happy you brought that up because I want to know that so that I can answer this question going forward. Um, and like if it's not, I'll tell my partner to, all right, let's figure out a solution for that to, you know, add another layer of security for, our customers.
Yeah, definitely. So that is the like that saved me through like some weird rug pull. Like I think I've gotten rug pulled twice and I've been okay. Like I've still like held everything's been on the contract. I've been able to get it back from the contract. So yeah, it oddly enough, it kind of gives me more confidence moving forward because I'm like, okay, this it seems to work. Like people who want to take your money aren't even able to because the blockchain technology
Yeah.
does seem to work. I don't know.
So, well, like generally, like once a contract is deployed, it's done, right? So like,
Right.
you know, it's just there's a few variables which, I need to get a better grasp on. The one that like always comes up though is deposit fees. And we've hard coded that in to limit them at 3.5. Um, you know, like I'd say like 95% of the contract is, you know, it's there for eternity.
Yeah, gotcha. And so like just I think the master chef not behind a time lock is the only issue that Rug Doc has. So would it be possible to put like a 2 hour time lock on stuff, or will that mess up tokenomics, or is that too will that mess up other things if you try and implement it?
Well, a time lock just for the sake of um, let's say you're driving a car and you have Superman sitting in the seat next to you, right? But you don't put on your seatbelt. Like, and Superman promises you that, like, okay, if we get in a wreck, I got you. You're good, right? Um,
Yeah.
like, okay, you don't have your seatbelt on, but you have this other thing there. So, like with our example, it was the deposit fees that got us into trouble, right? That second time. So like instead of like having a time lock where like the time lock runs off at like, like it does change up. So like if you have a 2 hour time lock and okay, well, we change it to 100%, and then 2 hours later it's 100%, like, and you don't see the rug duck warning and you ape into a farm, like, okay, you just lost 100%. Like we've
Yeah,
actually made it impossible, as demonstrated on the rug duck thing where it's hard capped at 3.5%. It is not possible for us to do that, right? And that's
totally.
immutable on the blockchain. So like that's the Superman thing where like, that's better than the seatbelt, but like people just hear time lock and want it.
Well, so for Rug Dog, they're kind of like the policeman, right? And they're like, hey, I know you have Superman next to you, but you're supposed to be wearing a seatbelt, buddy.
um, I mean, okay, if so, what like sort of the retort I would come back, since like this isn't like um, it's kind of like a subjective value thing, is like um, we still got like the lowest risk rating without doing the KYC stuff, right? Like
Totally, yeah.
their new sum risk is equivalent to
The low
what
risk.
low risk was like a week ago.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then I think it's just the nature of my partner's coding style to not want, like he wants his code crisp and clean and not with a bunch of crap that doesn't need to be there. Um, I
But for
guess,
the it's not really for the sake of functionality, it's for the sake of Rug Dot taking away that exclamation mark.
sentence, yeah. Um, I guess like our thought process is like, the sum risk is the B on the paper. So we got the B on the paper, like, oh, but yeah, your point is noted. I'll bring it up. Like on our, I don't know if you saw it in today, but in our Telegram thing, we
Yeah,
asked for feedback.
yeah, yeah.
We said, so okay, I'll treat it like that. Like that's your sort of submission to feedback, was like get that exclamation point off the rug doc, create a time lock.
Yeah, totally.
I,
No, thank you for taking that in. I appreciate it. And that's a really great idea to reach out to your Telegram community. I think that's a really good call. I can show the Telegram right here. Oh, that's me talking to you. Where's the cyborg one?
it'll
Oh,
probably still say Berkshire. I think. I don't think I.
oh, here it is. Cool. And we really appreciate your help too, because you're very responsive on the Telegram group. So thanks for being responsive, because that's one of the things that makes us feel better, that when we put our money with you.
Yeah, that like, it's like sort of there's this sort of like a pathway for like how a rug starts. And like one of the things is like when the devs aren't responsive on Telegram, and then you start seeing social media disappearing, and then like there's this sort of like stepping, yeah. So that's
Sure.
why I
Yeah.
do my best to be um as on there as I can, right? Despite whatever sort of mood I'm in. I think you saw me sort of yell at that guy that one time. Um, but yeah,
It's tough because people come out of the woodworks, and then they can say whatever they want. So
and they
sometimes they
don't
can.
read. It's a lot of times it's completely unfounded. Like I will have, that Telegram's been up for like what, like almost like 50 days now or something. And I bet there's some stuff in there I've said over 1,000 times, and like I'll answer it 10 more times tomorrow, like, and then if something associated with that I've said all those times goes wrong, scam, rug, you blah, blah, blah. And just, um, yeah. So,
Yeah. So what's some things that people should focus on when they're looking at new farms to keep them from getting rugged?
um, so like read rug doc, right? Um, see, go sit there and see if you can find anything out about it. Um, if it depends how good you are with the code. If most people aren't, so they're sort of taking rug dogs. I don't think it's anything like if you sort of do your due diligence on rug doc, it's then it's more about just like not being lazy about the process, right? Like like I was saying that like instead of using the interface of the website, you go do it through VFAT so that you're actually interacting with the contract, and you're not getting stuck with some like bogus web UI that's sending to a different contract, right? Like stuff like that can, like, it's more about like sort of operationally not making mistakes as opposed to like being the genius to like find the rug. um Now you can look for stuff that you think, like, um I don't know, you might have some sort of inkling that some things are going to be rugs or something, just where like you ask questions and like you don't, it you get an answer back where from someone in the Telegram or on the dev team that, like the timeline doesn't match up, where they're talking like they're done in 3 days and it's supposed to run for a month or something. There might just be sort of anecdotal stuff like that, but like, sort of get with someone that, if you can't read code, get with someone that like understands this stuff sort of in and out, and like have a process that sort of ensures that like there's no hard rug in it, and like just don't deviate, don't get lazy, right? Like I find that most of the times I get kicked in life, it's not because something crazy happened, it's because like I didn't do something. So that would kind of be my advice there.
Don't get cocky.
Yeah. Or I think it's more of lazy.
Lazy,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Doing your
uh,
due diligence. Definitely like what I do, instead of using VFAT tools, VFAT tools is really great. I don't know, I'm kind of a child, I guess. I like the colors and stuff and clicking on buttons. So
yeah.
I do use the web interface, but I'll look on MetaMask, it'll have the contract you're interacting with and it'll have the address of
Yeah.
that. So I will look at that and double check to make sure that it's the same. After Polygon, I learned,
Yeah.
okay, I got to do that.
Yeah. Like I just, the reason I sort of steer towards VFAT is because um, it's sort of removed from sort of the like if you think of a scam as sort of like a linear process, VFAT is kind of removed from it. They're
Oh,
third
okay.
party neutral.
Hmm.
So going through them, unless like the scammers have compromised VFAT somehow, which seems unlikely, um, like you can kind of rely on that. And like it's been my experience, like I guess these people are getting better with it, but like these crypto addresses, like and like the transaction hashes of all of these just string of characters, um, yeah, like having people differentiate between them, like the I guess maybe I should have more faith in humanity, but like I get asked the same question too many times to like I'm trying to make it simpler, right? Like go learn to use this thing. It's pretty simple. It doesn't look super pretty, but like because you're sort of removing yourself from like the farm's sort of like scam business funnel, like it's a layer of insulation.
Yeah. Thank you, VFAT Tools, for existing. You've saved my butt at least once.
And like I've found some cool stuff on VFAT tools. I found stuff where like, maybe the dev forgot, but like maybe it was a little bit intentional. Like I found hidden pools on there where like no one's in them. So you get to go be like you or like three other people can be the only people in there sucking up those rewards, right?
Yeah, that's
Like
awesome.
yeah, like, and just a little plug for our site. We have this thing on our site where we sort of explain how APRs work in farms, because that seems to confuse people a lot. Everyone sort of like, are these APRs real? Well, yeah, they're real right now. They're instantaneous, and as dynamics change, like so will the APR. And then like that's a way people say you're scamming, because the APR will move too fast for them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
And I mean, that was what got me like super interested because I saw these
yeah.
million and billion%. And I'm like,
It's
how
like
is
I'll
this
be a millionaire in
possible?
like 6 seconds. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. Oh, I see how it works. Interesting. But the math all checks out. Like it all checks out. The value of the coin
yeah,
plummets, but it's like that's just kind of how it works.
yeah.
And it's not always the case too. Like Polypup has been kind of an interesting one because there's a lot of like they somehow got a lot of momentum and super high TVL. So
Did you? I mean, I don't. Probably not. It's probably not an equivalent, but like Pancake Swap, their cake token.
mhm.
Like that's unlimited supply, and that thing just kept going up for months and months and months. It behaves like a farm, as opposed to like Quick Swap, which is like the Polygon equivalent. Like I'm like 99% sure there's a limited number of Quick Swap tokens,
Oh,
and then
okay.
after that, um, like Quick Swap does rewards. Like they have
Yes,
farms too.
they do. Yeah.
So like I think after like once they sort of hit their supply, the rewards, like they'll quit doing rewards. Um, but like Pancake Swap doesn't have any sort of limitations. They can just keep printing that thing until, it goes under or whatever. But like that thing, I don't like that thing defies logic on why like it maintains value. I
Yeah.
mean, it is the sort of the exchange of record, but like Uniswap quit, like they burned through their tokens and then they stopped like rewarding them for farming, like QuickSwap. I mean, I guess maybe just one day Pancake Swap will tumble, but like that's another one where I'm like, what is
What
wrong
is
with these
this?
people?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, um, but
Iron
yeah,
Finance was another interesting one where
yeah,
it was a reward token, but the value was going nicely
yeah.
up. Like what on
Um,
earth?
yeah, like I I hate algorithmics like stable coins. I got into this one back a few months ago on BSC on Binance Smart Chain that like had really, like I got burned on that one. And ever
Oh,
since then, I've just kind of like I've seen how they fall off peg and then just blow up. Um, I do not like these. Like I don't like them. Um, it's,
how
yeah,
do you feel
give me
about
some.
Tether and and like I know they've been having some like people they've been having some questionable stuff going on with like, I guess maybe they were making like Tether without people knowing or something like that.
The controversy around them that I'm aware of is so Tether is supposed to be backed by assets, right?
Right.
Um, like the sort of knock on it I've heard is the assets that it is backed by is commercial paper, meaning corporate debt. Like I heard some statistic, like don't quote me on this one, but it was some like gnarly statistic of like the second largest holder of commercial paper in the country or something. It was like so basically, um, they have this humongous wad of this high yield asset, but like it's it could blow up on them, right? Like, sort of think like some
Like
sort
Michael
of
Saylor and like how he's kind of leveraging off of his Bitcoin.
no, because basically what that is he's basically borrowing money from like investment banks to buy Bitcoin, right? So like
Mhm.
he's kind of like buying Bitcoin on margin is how that one sort of plays out. What this is saying is think of it more like Tether is backed by junk bonds. So if there is some sort of destabilizing event in the commercial paper market and a bunch of these loans default, um, you know, the the assets that back this thing could essentially become worthless. Um,
Interesting. So
or not
what would
worthless, but
Tether
maybe
be?
like,
Sorry, yeah.
well, I mean, maybe not worthless, but like, like distressed assets trade at some sort of fraction of their like previous value, right? Like
Hmm.
if if the bond was worth like $100 yesterday and it blows up, maybe it's worth 70 cents tomorrow and like 20 cents next Tuesday or something. Um, just and then, so instead of being backed 1 to 1, like dollar for dollar, like maybe, that ratio gets skewed. And like that was part of the thing with Iron Finance. They weren't, they were kind of a hybrid, right? Like they weren't
Right.
full algo, but they weren't fully backed either. They were like 20% backed, right? But when you have a bank run, 20% backed doesn't, if more than 80% of the people are, is that math right? Yeah.
Yeah, it
In a
goes
bank run,
right.
yeah, like,
There's just
you
not
know,
there's nothing in the
yeah,
bank.
yeah, can't cover it.
And that's crazy. So maybe that'll bring me to the last thing, which is like SEC regulation. How do you feel about like regulation in the DeFi space, and what as a farm, what challenges do you see on the horizon perhaps?
Um, I mean, the SEC needs to give guidance and sort of like let everyone know what the rules of the road are. Um, I, I'm, like the DeFi space is, you know, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of creative technology out there right now. You can like look at AI, you can look at stuff around like biotech, but blockchain is one of those technologies out there that's people are looking at and said, okay, this is going to be in play for like a couple decades, we think, right? Like, you know, it gets compared to the internet. Anyway,
Yeah, sure, sure.
regulation. You don't the United States government will put itself at a disadvantage if the regulation that it puts around this stuff is too stifling and that innovation goes elsewhere. Historically, the United States has been a place where people come to innovate. But, I just call me pessimistic about government these days. I like especially because you're sort of like the interests you're sort of challenging here, I don't think they're gonna do the right thing. And I think I don't know, like I'm just trying to read tea leaves here, but I think you might start seeing like a bifurcated financial system. I think you know, like there's that sort of thing about like living off the grid or whatever. Um, like stuff like Bitcoin and Monero up to this point have kind of been off the grid, right? Um, they're sort of toying with going mainstream, but like you don't go to 7-Eleven and pay with Bitcoin or anything like that right now, right? So there isn't wholesale adoption. Like I could sort of see it um it sort of being this alternative system. Um, I know that sort of there's other things that sort of do this, like when you think about stuff like diamonds, right? Like there's a whole ecosystem around the world of people that sort of transact in diamonds. I mean, a lot of this stuff is like in conjunction with like money laundering or hiding assets from governments,
Oh.
but to a certain degree, there is. It depends. It depends on the government you're hiding it from, right? Like, and morality is kind of from the view of the person looking. So, you know, we look at China maybe and we don't agree with sort of their policies about what they're doing with crypto. Um, you know, like I think people in more sort of lenient countries might look at what we do down the road and sort of draw parallels between that and not see anything that necessarily benefits like common people, but in event like benefits stuff like um, big corporate banks that give a lot of donations to politicians, right? Um, to make sure that they keep their seat at the power table. Um, like I think I'm leery that situations like that play out, and there's I think there's getting to be enough people out there that if if what they come up with doesn't sort of pass the smell test, they'll say no thank you and they'll stay sort of on the unregulated side and take their chances. Um, and that's why I say it'll be bifurcated.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But that's
Okay.
kind of,
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
yeah, um, that's kind of how I see it playing out. And I think the degree to which, um, it's kind of pro crypto or whatever, you see there's going to be some of that no matter what, right? Um, the degree to which it's pro crypto, the sort of people that hide out in the shadows is smaller. The degree to which it just turns into a giveaway for JP Morgan, that stays much bigger. Um,
Okay. Gotcha.
I would sort of say that's the dynamic I see coming forward.
So, do you think this is kind of like another, I'm trying to get another macro question in.
Yeah,
Do you think the US is going to use Bitcoin as a reserve currency? Like we have the gold standard, right? We have gold as a
no,
reserve.
I don't think we are ever we are addicted to money printing. Um, like like especially since we're the global reserve currency, that gives us such a
Power.
good position. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we get to if if we peg our currency to anything, we have to adhere to a policy. Whereas right now, we get to do whatever we want, right? We just go out and print with impunity.
Uh,
And because everyone has to transact in dollars, like, they just bite their lip and deal with it. And I get why a lot of other economies like have no patience for it, right? Like, and do not necessarily have wish us well, like, and like, I you can take like China, like they they are angling. I don't think that they can do it, but like they want to knock us off that horse
Oh
because if
yeah.
they
Oh yeah.
like if they can, so I don't think that like they might have ambitions of becoming the next like global reserve currency. I don't see that as playing out because I don't think enough people will trust them to do it. Um, but if they can sort of like just blow up, like do enough to sort of blow it up, if they can sort of do their CBDC, their central bank digital currency thing, and then like like not let Bitcoin in their country, but sort of like look the other way as like like sort of in the same way that Russia looks the other way about all the hacking stuff, if they can sort of like look the other way with like maybe people providing services that like help other countries that they don't like launder money and undermine their government, and sort of like they can sort of do this like piecemeal approach where it's like death by 1,000 cuts that
Hmm.
sort of like knocks the US off. Like I see it sort of, and then you sort of have this fragmented global economy, which I think in their game theory works better for them. Instead of it being sort of them against like sort of the big Western powers, they get to sort of like divide, like it's sort of divide and conquer type strategy. And then they can make sort of these like little alliances with like Russia and Iran. And maybe like through this, they get us and like parts of Europe fighting and we're not getting along. So we're more isolated as they grow comparatively stronger.
I know
Like I
China's
see that.
making. Hmm. I know China's making some big pushes through Africa too. They're trying to
Yeah, the Belt and Road initiatives.
yeah, get a lot of I'm not sure on the specifics, but yeah.
Yeah. So like they go in and the Belt and Road initiatives are where they go in and they deploy a bunch of money into poorer nations to build up stuff like ports and like infrastructure and stuff like that. And the money goes in as loans. So like there's a little bit of self-serving stuff because aspects of they want to use the stuff too. So they go in like, oh, we want a port here. We'll loan you a bunch of money to build a port. You'll get a bunch of jobs for your people. And then like, there's been some criticism of, anyway, I don't want to get too much into like my views on China. Like, um, although I do as an adversary, like they're playing a better game than we are. Um,
Yeah, I don't like one thing I want to note is that there's a difference between the people of China and then the Chinese government. Like I don't think the people of China are happy with their government, but I really don't know.
yeah.
Like I haven't even been to China, so what do I know? But typically when you try and control people though to like too much, that people don't like that. So that's kind of the basis of my belief there.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard some stuff like I can't quote anything actually, but it's a little bit anecdotal. Um, sort of, it's state-run media too, right? So like, um, they can sort of cherry pick what gets seen. Not that we don't do this too, right? Like we have special interests that like sort of cherry pick the coverage we see. Um, but like, if all they're doing is showing like Proud Boys rallies and Black Lives Matter stuff, like the people in China, like I've heard some anecdotal stuff, like look at the mess they got over there. Like, and their infrastructure is falling apart. You go to like some airports here and they're look like third world airports, and you go to like airports in China and it works and everything's clean and there aren't homeless people all over the place. And like, like they'll be like, it's kind of like the same idea as the ugly American. Hey, at least we're not those guys, like, except now they're pointing at us as opposed to us doing it to other people. And,
Right.
it might be kind of propaganda that they're getting sold a bill of goods on, but like still that's how they feel. Or to some degree, some percentage of the population, sort of liked crypto and wanted to tell the government to where to stick it and don't tread on me and all the sort of like libertarian idealism.
Hmm.
Um, and there's people all in that spectrum across it, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Having control over the media is huge. And being able to feed people information, I mean, that's huge. That gives you like massive control over their minds.
There's some famous quote, I don't know who it is, but like, never pick a fight with a guy who buys ink by the barrel.
Huh.
Um, sort of like don't fight with people that own
The newspapers.
media assets. Or it was more for like, yeah, newspapers, but like it works for TV or control the internet, control that flow of information.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, that's what I like about the decentralization uh aspect of cryptocurrency is you can
Yeah.
decentralize all these things.
And take away the power of the people in charge.
Yeah, and
And,
bring yeah.
yeah, but that's also where the rub comes in. And like, that's, that's the sort of $1 million question with crypto, right? Like, um, how much are they going to put up with, right? Because, like if you sort of think about the most extreme people within this sphere, like they really probably have no use for government at all. It'd all be like run by a DAO. Um,
Yeah.
and like whatever the code said is the way things sort of worked out. Whereas like you have Elizabeth Warren or maybe Gary Gensler come in and start talking about consumer protection stuff, or like I was reading something on Decrypt the other day about some congressman out of Illinois who was on uh, the blockchain working committee or something, someone trying to do some like work around putting some some sort of regulatory framework around all this stuff. And
Okay.
he was talking about rolling back Bitcoin transactions. And, like
Can't do that?
when I
What are you
hear
talking about?
exactly like, well, I mean, Ethereum did it once and that was a hard fork, right? Like they basically blew up Ethereum to do it.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
like, so, but like, and this guy, like, this is a group that is supposed to like have expert like knowledge about like these things, and he's talking about rolling back transactions on like blockchain. I was just like,
Hmm. Maybe he's talking about some
like
fancy layer two thing.
no, it was, I'll go find the article for you or something, but like it was one of
Huh.
those things where like that's why I'm so cynical and just like I, these are the people we have in charge, like there's no there's no way in hell that guy should be making decisions about this stuff. He doesn't understand it. Like, um, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think in government there's got to be good people in government that's doing good work. But yeah, it attracts like a sort of person that
Yeah. The type of person that like wants these jobs is the type of person you don't want to have them. Like
yeah,
the guy, the guy in school that had to like had to be in charge. That's who this is. And like that guy was always the jerk, right? Like, um, the people that need power are the people you do not want to have power. But the sort of determination it takes to get to like the high offices, like the sort of like tenacity that you have to be willing, like to show, it's not a joke, right? Like it's, um, there's that adage about like like if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog because they're all such snakes. Um, like, and I think I don't know if it's just because of the way like the media has sort of changed sort of the battlefield, or if it was always like this, but like the degree to which politicians seem to be self-serving these days is like um, for the country seems to be the second thought. The first thought is reelection, right? Like I just I look at all of their decision making through that prism of like, okay, did that help their ability to get reelected? Like, and then like they go do, whatever the good thing is. Like that seems to be like, to me, that seems to make the most sense on like predicting their actions and understanding their behavior, which is sad and pathetic. And I hope that like I have come across as nonpartisan because I mean the blame to go across party lines. Like it's not a condemnation of like one party or the other. Like I kind of see it as like it's all of them. They are the problem. Um, like there was that Kennedy line from the 60s, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. They're doing it the backwards way. It's like, what can I get out of this thing,
Yeah. I think the centralization of power or concentration of power is a big uh aspect of what could create that dynamic. Um, what do you think of like the centralized, like how absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so
I
yeah,
like
just
I no, I'm a big believer in that. Like So I think it also applies to greed. I sort of link like sort of greed and power together. I think that although some people have one of those two instincts stronger, they seem to sort of like they seem to have a lot of connectivity and a lot of correlation. Um, because one sort of begets the other. You get real rich and you get a lot of power, and then you sort of fall into the trappings of power, or you get a lot of power, and a lot of times that'll come with a lot of money, and you fall into the trappings of sort of like a gratuitous lifestyle.
yeah, for sure. So one thing that I want to try and get going with Peace Hands is like promoting community. And
Yeah,
honestly, I think like one of my latest thoughts is like it would be cool to make Peace Hands a DAO and then have it be like its own sort of interesting entity that makes people money somehow. But like, so one of the core issues I kind of feel is like people are working all the time and people can't like afford to like pay for their rent and stuff, and everyone's busy working to pay for
yeah,
stuff, and it's like we're
just to
paying to
survive.
work,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's no time for people to like get together and build community and get that sort of um you know community value that can come out of that. So that like it would be nice for cryptocurrency to like build on something like that. I don't know what your thoughts are around community and I don't know, just like Americans just being busy all the time working.
yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, um, yes. Like I would sort of say that like I sort of draw it back to like an economic thing that sort of when the narrative of like sort of the great outsourcing of like manufacturing jobs in the United States sort of like kicked in, let's call it maybe like 70s, 80s, and
Mm,
like from up through now, and like you saw a lot of the manufacturing go to Asia and China and stuff like that, and you saw sort of the decay of like what they now euphemistically call the Rust Belt and sort of problems surrounding that. Um, like aside sort of like, all right, you were uh you worked at a Ford plant in Michigan and you made enough to go buy like the house with the white picket fence, your wife stayed at home, you got to have two cars. Like no one does that anymore, right? So like just the way, like the race to the bottom, the sort of globalization of everything has sort of destroyed like destroyed sort of like the traditional Americana stuff. And you can sort of weave that into like some political narratives that are prevalent today without trying to step into it too much. Um, and that's real, right? Like people, the middle class hasn't gotten a raise in like 30 years or whatever it is. And like, that's why everyone's working is like they're everything keeps getting more expensive, but they're not making more money. So they just, everyone in the family has to pitch in, work more hours, and because of that, like community dissolves, right? Um, like what might have been like a church group, like picnic on Sundays. No, like that's laundry day because I got to work two doubles this week, and like the kids need to, like everyone's just their calendar's just full running, and like most people are just surviving, right? Like they're not getting ahead.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I mean, I'm still young, I don't have much responsibility, and I see some of these guys out there who, yeah, they're working nonstop, like literally, and it's mind-boggling to me.
It's sad, like yeah. So um, yeah, community. Like I think that's part of what killed community. I also think the cell phones and all the technology has kind of, like if you don't, let's say, like I assume you're a single guy. Um, like
I have a girl.
if you go to, I don't know why I assume that, but just for the sake of argument, like 50 years ago, like you don't have, like we're not doing this. This is social, right? So you would go to one of these civic sort of community things just to sort of have some social interaction and not go like 3 weeks without seeing a person, right? Um, it sort of forced real, like the lack of technology forced real social interaction. Um,
Right. You were bored, like you had
yeah,
to do something.
yeah, wanted to get more out of life than just like sleep, go to work, and cook dinner. Um, so, like, I think I mean, we have social media, but like, is that really like, I don't know. Like, I think
Mark
it's,
Zuckerberg would say he's building communities on the
yeah.
internet, right? Like internet
And
communities.
yeah. And, like, so to a certain extent, we have that in Telegram, like, on a tiny scale, like I've tried, um, to sort of build that. Uh, judge, like you're not gonna hurt my feelings. I don't, it is what it is. Um,
Hey man, I mean,
yeah,
you're doing all the stuff that I'm very interested in. So no, that
yeah.
it's all good, man.
So yeah, like, like, but my point just being that it's not real human interaction, right? Like
Sure.
it's
It's not like
definite, yeah,
person to
like
person.
yeah, going to a church picnic. Like to me, that's like the sort of quintessential Americana, sort of community, right?
Yeah. Or baseball
Uh,
game.
yeah, like like sort of like sitting in a Telegram group with a bunch of people you sort of know and posting stickers of Rick and Morty is something different, right? Like, like,
Different flavor.
yeah, to me, like, I, I think there's too much of that and there needs to be more of the organic stuff. I mean, granted, we're still in a pandemic. It sounds like it's getting worse right now, actually. Um, and but that trend was already sort of going before you know And you can sort of see it sort of like I'm sort of the back end of Gen Z, and like the difference between like, like I'm right on the borderline between Gen Z and millennial. I look at like sort of people a few years older than me and then people a few years younger than me, and you can see the difference in sort of like the years with they've spent with technology or not. Um, or I'm sorry, I'm like Generation X, Gen Z sort of border. But then like so like
I'm millennial,
but
so I'm
yeah,
all damaged from the technology.
yeah, but like it hit millennials like they weren't like they weren't a baby with a cell phone in their hands.
Right,
Like
right.
the Gen Zs have like never been alive without it, right? Like um all the depravity that can like happen on a cell phone has always been at their fingertips. Um so like it's and there's going to be more of this stuff, right? Technology just keeps going, like, and it's like the next 40 years are going to be insane with technology stuff, I think. Like um
Yeah.
well it we're going, I don't know, like I really think that we I don't know. I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but I
Yeah.
feel like there's an opportunity in the near future for, like, I don't know if it's good, bad, neutral, just different, but like it seems like there's enough sort of like discontent globally with the status quo that there could be sort of like this transformational thing that really um, shifts the like how we think about like life or something or society or just really changes our perspective. But
Yeah.
I, I I don't know what that is. Like I don't have a crystal ball, but I just feel like it's there, right? Like you just when I talk to people, there's just so like I see so much discontent and just like you look at politics and there's so much anger there. You look at like domestically, you look internationally, and like no one's getting along. Um, you look at sort of the environment and how like um, I believe in climate change, right? Like so um, that's seems to be like an issue that's coming to a head for us. There's just all of these things like you look at like different countries like debt levels, to bring it back to like finance, like the money printer go burr and then like Congress just racking up the debt. Like that cannot go on forever. Eventually that pops.
It
Um,
reminds me of a farm. Like all
yeah,
the farms go to zero, man. Like if you're just printing it.
yeah. No, it totally is. And like that's what I was saying earlier. We kind of get a jail out like everyone keeps buying our token because they got to use it in their farms. That's kind of the trick we played, right? Like
Yeah.
we're the reserve currency. So like you have to buy our token to do anything in this damn world. So we'll print as many of them as we want.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And so one of the things like I've always felt is especially like as I study mechanical engineering and I studied it because I was like, all right, I want to build stuff to help people or make the world a better place, right? But one thing I discovered is like, dude, we already have like a ton of super high tech technology that can do all sorts of crazy stuff. The problem is the economics, like and the cult. Well, I'd say the culture is probably a bigger thing than the economics. I think culture is like number one, but the economics doesn't work because our culture doesn't it isn't like it's
Incentivized
we come from the
correctly.
colonial like this colonial mindset or something like that.
Wait, say that again. I got cut off for a second.
Oh, no
We come from
worries.
this
Like,
colonial.
yeah, the culture are the Western culture, I'd say has a kind of colonial sort of feel to it. almost. So yeah, I think maybe that culture needs to change like that. But I think economics is like, one of the foundations of our world. So being able to decentralize or like, yeah, decentralize the power and money and all that, like that's going to be like, it's a game changer. It's a foundationally new thing. So I'm pretty bullish about the future in general. And I think
Well, I
yeah.
was gonna say then you can sort of even out my pessimism.
Yeah. There you go. I'll be the young gun who's naive, who'll go in charging with full optimism.
Well, hopefully you're right.
Well, thanks, Max, for joining us. Thanks for so much for your time. And is there anything you want to let the audience know before we go? Any way to get involved with the community you're trying to build? Any way to, or yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Like we're still figuring this out. Like we put that thing up to ask people to come in and sort of comment, give us constructive criticism and sort of just like truth be told, like, like what we did last week on TVL, just it's not enough to keep the lights on. So if, like um we have to change something up. We have an idea for something, um, but we will see. So,
Okay.
like, you know, I don't know what the future holds for Max. I think like we're gonna do this next thing or we're gonna do this survey, see where it goes. Um, Me and my partner are gonna sort of get together, um, see what makes sense, right? And go from there. But if people like our stuff, chime in, give us, you know, yeah, I guess
All
that's
right,
what I got.
great. And yeah, I'll be sharing this podcast, so hopefully everyone can get some good information out of it. They can now that they've gotten to know you, they'll be more comfortable like putting their money on the contracts, and we can get that
Or they just
TVL
think
up.
I'm crazy or something. But
Oh, we'll
yeah,
see. I think it's great that you're so open about your opinions, because I don't think they're crazy opinions. I I yeah, a lot of people like, I mean, I agree
in
with a
crypto
lot of what you
land,
said. So
they're not too out there. Like in more mainstream circles, some of the stuff I think is kind of out there. But
gotcha.
yeah,
But you got to
yeah.
have
Thank you for
dreamers,
your time. Yep. Are people willing to throw a monkey wrench in the engine, mess it
Yeah.
up? um, okay, yeah. Thank you. And maybe down the road we connect again and do a follow up and see where it went or something. I don't know.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Best of luck to you. I'll try and help out from my end in any way I can.
Cool. And shoot me over. Tell me about what you were thinking about for your DAO for your community. I'm curious.
Yeah, well, so honestly, I don't really know anything. Like uh it's super, it's just like the vision, I don't know the specifics of it yet, but if I do, like I am going to work on that, so once I start figuring that out, I'll let you know.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome, Max. Well, thank you, man. Have an
Yeah.
awesome day, and good luck with the farm.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
All right, peace, ants out.
Bye.
Bye.